Hello. Thanks for joining in. Today I would like to do something a little bit different. I'm not usually going into just chatting category, but I remembered something, a dream that I had as a kid, and I remember it as if it was yesterday, very lively. Of course, as the years are going, you do forget some of the details, but there are still few images that stick with me to this day, and unless you noticed by the background music or by the tone of this video, this is going to be a little bit creepy. I'm not saying it's going to be super scary. No, don't worry, there will be no gore or some nonsense, but it was still a pretty bit disturbing. Now, I don't necessarily remember how old I was, but I do remember that as a kid, you usually do not have expectations or an image or understanding what the death is, and that we can and will ultimately lose something as the journey progresses forward in your life, and then you inevitably lose loved ones and close ones and people you knew, be it personally or maybe just some actor that you liked and you saw him on TV, and then inevitably even these actors will pass away because you are a kid. But you don't understand that, you don't know what the death is, but you have kind of a feeling. And I think my first realization about what the death is was actually this dream. Now, what you can see on the screen here is just I let the AI generate a couple of pictures of me, not of me, for me. The first two are kind of just a funny story. I tried to create a final boss of Prague, or what I called it. So here we have two final bosses of Prague, as you can see on the picture. But the other pictures that I'm going to show just in a second are really tied to the dream, and what I tried to do was I did try to explain ChatGPT about the atmosphere that the dream had, and surprisingly the ChatGPT generated an image that might not be quite the dream I had, but it was really close. Now, imagine you are about 6, maybe 7 years old, kid really, and in your dream you go into a very weird place. You can smell the dampness and the moistness in the air and the smell of soil, and you see the black iron gate, and you know you have to go inside. What you don't know is that it is a crypt, or maybe a sort of barrow, something between crypt and a barrow in an old cemetery. And you just go in. There is a dust everywhere. You open the creaky, black, slightly rusty gate and you go inside. And then everything fades to black, and when you come to your senses, you are in not cave, not quite. It's an old crypt. You have a little bit of understanding of what crypt is. Maybe you've seen a movie as because you were a kid. Maybe something scared you. Maybe you went on a school trip to a place that is called as the bone place, where this is essentially the crypt, where there is a lot of bones and there is even ornaments made out of bones and everything. By the way, this just shows how twisted our ancestors in medieval times were, but I digress. So I woke up within a crypt, within this slightly cold place, chilling place with the smell of dirt and stone and generally the old moldiness all around you, and everything was dusty. But I wasn't alone. There were skeletons all around me, and These skeletons were alive. They were talking to each other. Casually, and it wasn't that they would be like bloodthirsty monsters. What I was most scared in a dream, I remember, as I was looking throughout this candle-lit crypt, only a live person in there, and there were about about a dozen, maybe slightly less than dozen, I don't know, 7, 8 skeletons around me, or decrepit or old in a clothing that's been slowly rotting away and falling away from their skeletal bodies, with hair and facial hair, which is, by the way, something that is quite often found on skeletons because the hair do not rot. I don't know how I knew it as a kid. Maybe it's just... it was there in a dream, and they were talking to each other. The most dreadful thing was that I felt ignored, as if, because I was living, they saw right through me, as if I didn't belong. And I don't know what that feeling was, why I was so scared, why I was feeling so alone. I wanted to get out, and as I was thinking about going out, the thought process just went back to that black gate, to the black rusty gate, with the dust just whirling through the air as you tried to open it. But I couldn't just quite stand up and leave. There wasn't any explanation or any reason why. I was just paralyzed, sitting there watching as these skeletons were talking, and I was desperate to at least be acknowledged, to at least know what's going on. I remember there was this skeleton that has been the closest to me. You cannot tell if it was a skeleton of a man or a woman. I remember it had long, decrepit hair and some very old remnants of clothing that it has been dressed into, and it all just looked very old in a little of lightning of the candles that I had. And then finally this skeleton acknowledged me. He looked at me directly in my eyes, with his skull with those empty holes instead of eyes, and was looking directly at me. And at that point, just as the background music stopped right now, all of the skeletons stopped talking, and every single one of them looking at me, at my direction, directly. It was as if they were looking in my soul. I was focusing on this one who noticed me first. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say or what to ask, and I had so many questions. How do I get out? Why? What's going on here? And then the skeleton spoke directly to me, and to this day I remember that voice and the one sentence that the skeleton told me. He opened his mouth, and all he said was, "We are all dead here." And then I woke up. That was it. So think of it whatever you want to. Just remember, whenever you see a rusty old iron gate leading to a burrow, think twice about going inside. Thanks for watching.